This is Damon Tenen with the Get Your GED Now test preparation series. Today I'm going to show you an example of what a live GED class is like with me. You would get a login code, a link. You would go to that link, put in your login code, and simply join online and see this screen just like you're seeing now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a GED practice test question, and we're going to do that just to give you a sense of how these live classes work. So what you're now seeing on your screen is one of the practice GED tests that you can go online and take a look at. And so it's one that's particularly difficult because it involves a lot of algebra, and so I'm just taking the time to show you how to do this problem. So Hartley opened a food truck business to sell food on the street. On day 2, the business earned $112. On day 5, the business earned $367. Hartley assumes that the earnings will continue to increase at the same rate. How much will the business earn on day 10? So let me now go to a whiteboard, and so we can begin to work out this problem, and we're going to be moving back and forth. That's one of the benefits of working live online, is that you can bounce from a variety of different screens. So I'm just going to draw a simple chart here. Actually, let me take. And also, a benefit of it is when you don't get exactly what you want, you can erase it. So the question talks about food and days and money that Hartley made. So I'm just going to just show a couple of things here. So we have numbers that talk about day 2, and we have numbers that talk about day 5. And then we also have numbers that talk about how much money Hartley made on day 2 and on day 5. So just bear with me for a second while I just draw this chart out for us to use. And I'm going to say this hash mark here represents 100. Then this hash mark here represents 200. This one here represents 300. This one represents 400, and then so on. So now let us go back to the question. So what we see here is that on day 2, the business earned $112. So now I'm going to go and plot that point on the drawing that we've made. So I'm going to go grab my pencil here, and I'm going to use the color black. And so here's day 2, and here's the amount of money. So on day 2, he made 112, and so that point's going to be somewhere around here, and that's point. That's going to be point 2 on the x-axis and 112 on the y-axis. And let me make that larger so we can see it. So that's 2 on the x-axis and 112 on the y-axis. So then let us go back to our question here. And so on day 5, the business earned 367. So let's go back to the chart, get my pencil here. Get a different color just for emphasis. On day 5, the business earned about 367, so that's going to be somewhere about there is that point. I'm going to get a bigger font here. So that's 5 on the x-axis and 367 on the y-axis. So now let's go back to our drawing here. And it says, so Hartley opened this food truck business on day 2. It was 112. On day 5, the business earned 367. Now Hartley assumes that the earnings will continue to increase at the same rate. So how much will the business earn on day 10? So now let's go back to our chart. And so we're just going to get a hash mark here. And we're going to say day 10 is out here. And then I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger. Here's day 10. And so we have to find out then how much money is he going to make on day 10. That's 500, that's 600, that's 700, that's 800, that's 900, that's 1,000. How much is Hartley going to make? So this is a problem that is going to involve quite a few algebraic concepts. The first concept it involves is the concept of a constant, because the problem says here that he assumes that the earnings will increase at the same rate. So that means at a constant rate the earnings will continue to increase. So because he has that assumption, that lets us know that we need to use the slope. And so the slope formula, and you are actually given this formula on the GED test, so this is nothing you need to memorize, but the slope is m is equal to y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. And then I'm just going to get a line here to demonstrate that that's over a fraction bar. So that is the formula for slope. Now, where do we get those numbers? Where is y2 and where is y1? So using my pointer here, this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. And so y2 is this point, 367, and then y1 is this point, 112. And x2 is this point, 5, and x1 is this point, 2. So let's go ahead and plug those numbers in the slope. And make that a little bit bigger there. So y2 is 367 minus 112, and then x2 is 5 minus 2. And then so we're going to get our equal sign. And so we're going to see that 367 minus 112 is 255, and then 5 minus 2 is 3. So just draw my bar here. And so then if you do the division on that, you're going to get the number 85. So the slope is 85. Then the second thing is you have to figure out something called the slope form, the equation of the line. So y equals mx plus b. So that is the slope equation of this line that we're going to see that is going to be increasing at a constant rate of 85 each time. So then what we would do is we would go ahead and plug in 85 for m, or slope, times x plus b. Now, a quick primer on what these numbers mean. So x is the input. X is the number of times, or the number of occurrences this slope is changing. So the slope is changing by these many times. B is the initial value, or the number, or the point at which the line crosses the y-axis, and this is the y-axis, and so B represents the point at which the y-axis is crossed. And then y is the output. It's so when you put in the initial value B, and then the constant slope 85, and then times the number of occurrences, that's the input, then you get your output y. I know that's a little bit confusing, but just bear with me. Again, in a real life class, there'll be plenty of time for you to ask me questions based upon this. So now the second thing we need to do is we need to come back down here under this formula. I need to get a bigger font here again. And we actually have to put in some points. So we see that we have some points here, and so I'm going to just choose these points here, just at random. It doesn't matter. I could also choose these points, but I'm going to choose these. So I'm going to say 112, plug that in for y, is equal to 85, which we just found out. And I'm going to use parentheses just to make it clear that we're doing multiplication. And I'm going to plug in that x value too. And then I'm going to say plus b. And then I'm going to come back down here and do 112, and because we need to expand that 85 times 2 gives us 170 plus b. Now, if you know anything about solving equations, then you know that our whole goal is to get b by itself, so we have to do the opposite and combine like terms. And again, I have tutorials that cover more of this in depth, so I'm just showing you just an example of what we do in the live class. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract, because that 170 here is positive. We're going to do the opposite and subtract it. And because we did it to this side and it's an equation, we're also going to do it to this side, because that's going to allow this equation to remain equal. Okay, so that 170 minus 170 is going to cancel out, and so that's going to leave b by itself, and then a minus 170, 112 minus 170 is going to give us a negative value. Actually, negative 58 is going to equal b. So now we have found out this point b. So now we can come down again and establish the fact that the equation of this line is y equals m 85 times x plus a minus 58. Okay, or actually we can just simply write that as minus 58. So the equation of this line here is y equals 85x minus 58, and that's the equation of the line going this way. So now what do? Well, we have to go back to our question, because we've done a lot of work here. And the question is asking us, how much will the business earn on day 10? So on day 10 is what we need to figure out. So now, when I mentioned earlier that this x value represents the input, that's our input. And so when we put in 10 here for this x times that constant change of 85, and minus that initial value, or the point where it initially crossed the y-axis, then we're going to find out the output y, or the answer to our question, how much will the business earn on day 10. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and get a bigger font here. And so we're going to get y is equal to 85 times 10, I'm just going to put that in parentheses so it's clear that we're doing multiplication, minus 58. And so we're going to y equals 850 minus 58, and then y equals 792. So 792 would be our answer. So this is an example of what you're now facing on the 2014 GED test. This is a complicated problem. You need to have a lot of concepts down well in order to be successful on this test. Now, going back to the test, that's just one simple problem. Now, not every problem on the GED test is that way. There's some a little bit more simple, I would say. If you're familiar with scientific notation, there's one like that. There's another one if you're familiar with radicals, so simplifying expressions of radicals. There's others where if you know how to do percents, okay, that's still on the test. You know, math is still math. There's others if you understand how to set up an equation of inequality, that's there on the test. And then if you know how to evaluate an expression, that's on the test. So you have a variety of things that are on the test, but I really wanted to hone in on something that was more difficult. Now, this next problem is something that's also using the slope intercept form equation of the line to measure the growth in the diameter of a tree based upon scientific data. And again, see, this is what you're going to see on the GED test. You're going to see these kinds of things. And so in order to be prepared, in order to excel on the test, it's important that you have tools available to you to help you. And I'm proud to say that we've developed a 2014 package, which you're welcome to come and take a look at www.mygedlive.com. But again, you are more than welcome to join me live online. I only take a certain number of people. It's free of charge, but I do this because I want to get this information out there to help people understand what they're going to be facing as they prepare to take the 2014 version of the GED math test in specific, but the GED test as a whole. Again, this has been Damon Tennant with the Get Your GED Now test preparation series.